What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Screen Realm. My name's Guillermo. You're about to watch a chat that I was lucky enough to have with director VINCENT GRASHAW about his new film called What Josiah Saw, a horror film that premieres on Shudder on August 4th. Written by Robert Allen Dilts, the film stars Robert Patrick, Nick Stahl, Scott Haze, Kelli Garner, and more, and tells of a damaged family who, after 2 decades, reunite at their remote farmhouse where they confront long-buried secrets and sins of the past. In the interview ahead, I chat to Vincent about making his third feature as director, the difficulties in getting this off the ground and the difficulties during production, how he managed to get stars such as Robert Patrick on board, sticking to his guns when it came to some particularly edgy scenes, what he learned as a filmmaker with this tough shoot, and more. What Josiah Saw is hitting Shudder on August 4th. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Enjoy the chat. I like to say this early. Congratulations on just making a movie, because that alone I always think deserves congratulations to accomplish a film on its own. So well done.
Thank you. Yeah, I totally agree.
It's a lot of work. And I know that in particular with this film, you had a bit of an uphill climb over the years trying to get it to production in the first place.
Yeah, about 6 years before it finally got into like shooting. Yeah. I mean, it was up and down twice, like financed once in 2014 and then again in 2015. Both times fell apart. Both times it's always a dagger in your side every time. But it's meant to be. In hindsight, glad it wasn't made back then, because the project just it got better, it evolved, and it's stronger for it.
How similar is the overall product to what you envisioned early on? I mean, you said that it evolved over time. Is it quite different now, or is it pretty much what you and the screenwriter had in mind?
I mean, the tone has always been there, and the chapters were always like that. I think certain elements or situations in a couple of the chapters had sort of shifted completely. I know we did a lot of work on Nick Stahl and Eli's chapter. Sort of the setting of that. It was always a carnival, but there was elements to what happened that it sort of shifted over the years. But like I said, it's better for it. I think that's kind of a process with a lot of my films. Like what the script is when you first fall in love with it isn't necessarily what it is when you're shooting.
Dramatic family thriller and also a horror film. How would you describe it yourself?
Yeah.
Because it kind of straddles the genre line a bit, doesn't it? It kind of dips in and out of what you would call genre tropes or genre tones.
Yeah, I definitely, it's in that genre world, but I had always felt it was a horror movie. When I first read it in 2013 was when I was getting pages from the writer. He was sending me the script as he was writing it. And I was like, this is a horror movie. No matter where it went. And I don't mean horror in the conventional sense, but it was around the time before, I think, all these very sort of smart, high psychological horrors have come out since 2013, for sure. A lot of like the A24 horror films and stuff like that sort of intense drama with horror elements to it. So I knew I was onto something when I started seeing these horror movies kind of come out like that, because it just sort of redefines what people think horror is. I mean, horror for the longest time was Saw, sort of torture porn horror, or the Halloween Scream, Michael Myers, whodunits. And I've always kind of liked the ones that have been sort of prominent lately, that really kind of, you sit with it, not so much pop-up scary, but the ones that you think about a lot after you watch it. I think when I read a script, I pretty much right away, if I'm like, oh, I can visualize this and feel it, then I know I really kind of want to do it. It's kind of how I gauge it.
Yeah, right. And when it comes to casting, I mean, getting Robert Patrick, for example, pretty big name for a relatively small film. How did that come about?
Ronnie Blevins, who was in the movie as well, he plays one of the guys who go to the carnival with Nick Stahl. He had done a movie called Tone Deaf with him, with Robert, and I'd been friends with Ronnie for years, and he was like, man, you gotta cast Robert. You should really try and go for him, and I can put in a good word. And so getting actors of any sort of note, especially ones like Robert, who've been around for years and are incredible, you need that backdoor access at times, and agents, I'm sure, hate it and are annoyed by it at times, but it's sort of necessary to cut through a lot of the bullshit. I mean, to be honest, sorry if I
Mm.
can't
Yeah,
curse,
it's all
but
right.
you know, it's kind of what you have to do if you know, to at least get a genuine read and a shot at landing them. And even then, it's hard. Like Robert was reluctant at times, I'm sure, to do it because it's one thing reading a script and liking it, and then it's another. It's like to know which hands you're put in, like with the filmmaker. You know, I imagine like this kind of movie, which is very, you know, it's different, in its structure, could be if done the wrong way, it could be a disaster. You know,
Mm.
so I think actors like Robert they need to talk to the filmmaker and know they're in good hands. Um, and so we had a chat on Skype, and he watched my previous film and was really excited after that. And I think he knew like, okay, I'm I'm going for a mature film here, not some, you know, pulpy, you know, slasher movie or something.
Yeah, I mean, and he certainly had to go through some interesting moments on set. I can imagine would have been a bit awkward.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
There's a couple, you know, there were people that wanted that scene gone,
Right.
or you know, and I just knew that if there were two things people said, if they wanted that scene to change, or if they wanted there not to be chapters and they wanted it intercut, that they weren't right to make the movie with.
Yeah. So I when I saw that, I thought, I haven't seen a scene like this in a while, or maybe ever in cinema. So
Yeah,
maybe,
yeah,
so I definitely appreciated the balls to do it.
yeah, and with that, it's not like just to get a shock out of people. Like it's very, very integral to the movie. I mean, there's so much to it, and there's a lot there with that kind of stuff. And you know, that's how I knew it wasn't just for shock value or gratuity or gratuitous sense. It was ingrained into the characters and their journey
Yeah.
from those points on, you know. And the one thing I'll say about this kind of movie that excites me and made me want to do it is, like it or not, you will definitely come out of this experience watching it with a feeling like an intense sort of feeling one way or the other. Like it's
Absolutely.
not a meh kind of movie. It's one that you go, you know, I feel like you can love it or hate it.
Yeah, I mean, I saw it with my better half last night, and it was definitely one of those films where it finished and we're like, we're gonna have to talk about what we just saw here.
Yeah. I would have loved to hear that. I'm always interested to hear what that kind of conversation is like, you know.
In a film like this, I'm always interested in what it's like on set. A lot of the actors that you have, a lot of the cast have to get into some pretty interesting dark headspaces. Were there tactics that you helped for that, or did you kind of let them have the script and interpret it their own way and to deliver that darkness on their own?
I mean, I think when you read the script, everyone knew what they were getting into.
Yeah.
Um, we talked a lot in pre-production. Look, you know, when you hire these kind of actors, all very experienced, been in the game a long time, a lot longer than me. They know what they're doing, and I trust them with that, you
Mhm.
know, and I know enough about what I want. And so if something's off a little bit, you know, I'll speak up about it and we may have a talk or something. But I feel like by the time you're shooting, you're all in sync and you trust each other, and it's just fun. Like you have a lot of fun, as much as it is really trench warfare, like really hard to do at low budget filmmaking. This shit is just hard. It was the hardest film I'd made, but you just don't have the time to really do what bigger budgets maybe have, like shooting less pages a day, so you can actually sit and talk more with the actors in between scenes and what the motivations are and all that. You just don't have time for it. So we do a lot of that in pre, and sometimes like I didn't meet Nick Stahl until he showed up on set. Like
Oh wow.
I talked to him on the phone a few times, and that was it. And so the first day I met him in real in person, it was on set day one of his days, and there's a trust there, and
Mhm.
he pretty much, you know, from just our talks, he knew where we were going with it.
Mhm.
So I that's kind of how I operate, you know.
So you said that this is the hardest film that you had to do. Is there anything particular, maybe one or two things that you think you learned as a filmmaker for the better because of this?
It definitely oh, I was just talking about this the other day with somebody, and now it's slipping my mind in terms of the the sort of lessons here. I mean, really, it was the first time I was having PTSD director nightmares after rapping. And so really it's just in terms of a lesson is to really just enjoy the process of what you're doing, because it goes by like that. And you just don't want to get too sucked up into things that are go wrong. It's more about how to put out those fires. And by the end of the day, hopefully you're all jumping on each other with excitement for what you got for the day. So it was a lesson in just, as hard as it gets, the end result, what we have, all that's forgotten. The tough parts about it are kind of water under the bridge, because there was a ton of stuff happened to us shooting this movie. I'm sure we don't even have the time to get into it all, but
any one or two particular things that you remember?
yeah, stuff that had nothing to do with making the movie, but our Airbnb for my first AD and producer and second AD got burglarized, and there was a whole like chase to catch the guy. The guy got away and with a bunch of stuff, and then ordered like $200 worth of like Schlotsky's fast food with a credit card of theirs, and then so they were able to trace where he was. And then the cops raided his motel, and he had like tons of stolen stuff he had like somebody's stolen dog. Another time, all of our characters' wardrobe flew out of the back of a U-Haul onto the freeway. And so two of my main characters' wardrobe, two and a half, or three of the characters' wardrobe, all gone. But we had wrapped two of them already, thank God. Okay. So we didn't need that. And so we had to replace one of the main characters' wardrobe. Like, wow. Just crazy stuff. The U-Haul, the person forgot to shut the back. And so it's just amateur hour at times. But at the end of the day, we're all very proud of the movie. So it's just kind of like funny stories to tell in hindsight now, right? It doesn't matter.
Well, in hindsight, it must be interesting to know all the steps it took when you're looking at something that visually and as a film, it holds together really quite strongly. So you must be pretty proud of that.
Yeah. I mean, our cinematographer, Carlos Ritter, he just really brought this out. Each shot is like a painting. So just to have it look the way it does, and the production design by Stephanie Reese, our composer, that score to me is what bridges the movie entirely into the horror realm. It like bridges all the chapters because it's sort of consistent. Yeah, I mean, everyone killed it. And so our colorist at Company 3, Drew Geary and Tom Poole, they're best in the business. So we got some people that really helped us out, considering how small we were.
In regards to this size of filmmaking, and for the other indie filmmakers out there that are aiming to get something like this going, do you have any little bits of advice, or perhaps just things to be aware of to going into something like this?
Yeah, I mean, this is my third film, but the first film I made that I produced and edited and acted in, I mean, we made it for $20,000. So that was 10 years ago or 11 years ago. And it was just a bunch of us friends. And to me, it's like now more than ever is a time where you can go and make your own thing. You have everything at your disposal. It takes a little bit of money. Don't rely on production companies, agents, actors. Just go and do it. None of us had access to actors. We just made it. And it paid off. Like, it kind of jump started my career. And so just in terms of being taken serious, because we went and made something, did not give a shit. And I just recommend that to anybody who wants to make a movie. There's nothing that can stop you these days. Like, it's a camera. If you have a good story to tell, you do it.
Press record.
Press record. You can film it on an iPhone, and if your story's cool, everything else is forgivable. Like, if the acting's good and the story's good, that's it. Exactly. Maybe you do one of those movies that are small, 20, 50 grand, 100 grand, even whatever you can get. And then tell yourself, now next one, I'm not doing it unless I want to move up to a bigger size film, or whatever you want to do. Just lay out that groundwork and don't stop, because there's going to be a lot of rejections and daggers that get you. And, I can't tell you how many times that's happened to me. So stick with it. That's all I'd say about it.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for your time today. I look forward to seeing your next work.
Thanks, Guillermo. I appreciate you watching it. And, I hope people respond to it the same way you did.
I'm sure they will. Thanks so much.